Hey everyone, what is up? I am Exit over here, and I'm here with my review for Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 4, titled An Obol for Charon, or Charon, the Greek god, whatever, how you pronounce his name. But there's going to be huge spoilers for the episode from this point on. So, for the first time in this iteration of Star Trek, we see Number One, who, besides Spock, besides Spock and Pike, is the only Star Trek character from the Cage who had a name, I believe, or who was kind of known. She's a character who, pretty historically in Star Trek, never got a name. She only appeared in the Cage before appearing in this episode, and even in this episode, she still doesn't have a name. It seems a bit weird, though, that Pike just kept referring to her as Number One, because wouldn't he just call her name? Why would he be referring to her as Number One to people who've never even met her? But it was cool to see her nonetheless. She was played by Majel Barrett in the original series, who was Gene Roddenberry's wife, I believe, and the person who did the voice for all of the computers, all the way up until the movies, I think. The J.J. Abrams movies. And the actress who played her here kind of actually looked like Majel Barrett, so that was pretty cool. Speaking of the J.J. Abrams movies, I just want to give a shout out to how the music in this episode sounded especially like those movies. The Michael Giacchino, his music, he does the music for the three movies for Star Trek in Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond. And the music in this episode sounded really familiar to the movies. It was good though. I like the music from the movie, so I liked it here as well. But anyway, onto the plot of the episode. So basically, the Discovery is chasing Spock's last known position. They're chasing him into the point where they are forced to drop out of warp because a huge living sphere in the sky is kind of damaging the ship and forces it to just stay in position. Meanwhile, while that's happening, Saru's gotten really sick because whatever the sphere is emitting is kind of triggering a terminal virus that the Kelpians have that basically means they're almost ready to die. And the B plot of the episode was more about Tilly and May and the spores and all that, with Jet Reno returning from the season premiere. It was great to see her again. But Tilly is basically she's kind of freaking out because May is like latching onto her and all that, and we have this cool stuff where Stamets and Jet Reno were trying to get May off her, and it was interesting. It's probably the best I think that plot has been since we first got introduced to it. So we'll start off with the sphere stuff. So that was it definitely felt like something old Star Trek would pull, was like a big huge living sphere in the middle of space, like dropping the ship out of warp and whatnot. It was cool they was kind of infecting the ship with a virus. The first instance we saw of this was when the universal translator stopped working and all the crew started speaking different languages, or they were speaking their own languages, but the translator was translating them as different languages. We saw people speaking Klingon and Dorian and about a dozen human languages. That was really interesting. We also got a reference to Teo Seti as one of the languages being spoken. That's a planet that is in the show. I think that's where Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager, I think that's where her father died, and something about Jack Crusher there as well. But we got tons of stuff like that. And I believe Pike referenced the Tower of Babel. I think Babel is some kind of like planet where a lot of political stuff goes down, and I know Star Trek Enterprise book is definitely called Tower of Babel, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, this triggers Saru, and most of the episode we spend with Saru, he's kind of sick, he thinks he's dying, and he asks Michael Burnham to kill him by cutting off his ganglia, it's called, which is like the weird reflex things on his neck. He asks Michael to cut them off so that he'll die and that he'll be out of pain and all that, and she actually does cut it off, which could have killed him, but he ended up surviving, which was pretty obvious considering he's the only Kelpian on the show. They're not going to kill him off in early season 2. If any of the characters on this show were going to survive to the very end, I would say Saru is the only one, considering he is Kelpian. They could change the entire rest of the crew and keep Saru. Even Michael Burnham they could kill off and I would believe it, but Saru, I wouldn't believe it. So she cuts it off, and then this kind of gives Sarah a revelation, because his whole life, him and his people have been thought that when this happens, when they get this virus, it means that they're getting ready to be hunted and kind of slaughtered by the Bayou, the people who are hunting him on his planet, and that by cutting that off, that essentially means that they're ready to be straight up cut up, eaten, whatever. So she cuts that off, and Sarah just immediately gets better. He's all good again, and he's like, wait a minute, that means that the Bayou have been lying to us. That means my whole species has been lied to. And we get this kind of cool scene where he's pissed off about all this. And I know that we're supposed to go to his home planet at some point this season, so I'm hoping that this will kind of drive him to go back to his home planet and kind of be like to his people, look, this isn't supposed to go like this. That'd be really interesting. The Tilly and May plot, like I said, was a little bit more interesting than before. We kind of had May constantly infecting her. She didn't want to let Tilly go. She needed her as a host, I think. And the episode ended with Tilly kind of being sucked inside this cocoon kind of thing that we're probably going to see. I think the next episode, Michael and Stamets are going to have to go inside that and kind of try and rescue Tilly, take her out of it. It was interesting to learn that this species, they are native to the mycelium network, and that basically when the Discovery was constantly jumping in and out of the mycelium network, it started damaging the ecosystem of this species planet, and that it definitely brought up kind of an ethics thing. And I think this is going to be the reason why Discovery is forced to stop using the spore drive, or just Starfleet is forced to stop using it in general, is because it is killing this planet, and it's something that Starfleet will be 100% against, something Gabriel Lurka wouldn't be, but lucky he's not in charge, or he's not in charge of Discovery anymore. There was a really weird scene where the spores started kind of affecting Stamets and Jet Reno, and we got this weird scene where their faces look like Snapchat filters. That was kind of weird. I'm gonna be honest, that really didn't. I honestly think that's the worst scene of the episode. Maybe the worst scene of this season so far. It just looked so stupid. But I'll let it pass. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. But that was Star Trek Discovery Season 2 Episode 4, and it was an enjoyable episode. It definitely, I still think that this episode and last episode have not reached to even come close to the heights of the first two episodes, but it's still a perfectly enjoyable episode, so I would give this a 7.5 out of 10. So thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you, and have a great day.